Hi, I'm Jenna.
Hello, I'm Gloria.
We are Worthy Wellness.
Because we are worth it.
Our purpose is to introduce women entrepreneurs, products, and services while proceeds help women in need for holistic care and therapy services.
Welcome, ladies.
Our first guest, Erica Valdez. She's an amazing mother entrepreneur of 2 children and an incredible businesswoman. She's a realtor, home staging consultant, and a wedding planner. And Gloria is going to have the pleasure to interview her. We just wanted to mention that for this first episode with Erica Valdez, she has such a long, beautiful story to share that it's going to be broken up into 2 parts. And it's really going to be catered to the individual and the episodes. And sometimes it's going to be broken up into 2 parts, but maybe not all the time. Happy listening.
Hi, so I have Erica here today with us. And Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Well, let's start with some fun facts. I am a single parent of 2. My oldest is turning 25, and my youngest is 19, full-time college student. We have an awesome relationship. We bowl together on a bowling league every Thursday. We're proud residents of Long Beach, and I am 100% a coffee lover.
That's great. Now, I understand that you have several businesses that you run. Which one of those hats do you like to wear the most? Which one's your favorite to do?
I'm not sure that I can pick a favorite, Gloria. I love all 3 of my businesses equally. They allow me to help people in different ways while providing me with the opportunity to be creative and express that about myself.
And I understand you're a wedding planner?
I am. Yes, I have been for almost 9 years.
Wow.
Chic Event Designs will be turning 9 in December.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And let's talk about that for just a second, because, wedding season and people are going to be getting engaged this Christmas. So what is your busiest month?
Honestly, it fluctuates from year to year. Sometimes we're super busy in the spring, other times summer. And then, for example, this year I've had a ton of fall events. So it just varies, really.
Oh, wow. And your karmic home staging. I see that you have, your audience can't see it, but it's beautiful. She's very talented. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Gloria. Karmic Staging is a home staging business, and it's super fun. I get to be creative. Who can say that they get to go pick out furniture and home decor as part of their job, right? And it is something that developed with my business partner over a self-care Sunday at the nail salon. So definitely a fun story behind that.
I love that. And I love self-care, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it doesn't matter, right? That sounds great. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what made you decide to make changes to your life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a broken home. My father abused drugs. He actually overdosed when I was approximately 6 years of age, and that landed him in a convalescent home for several years. My mother, was very tough. She was, physically abusive. I have other siblings, but primarily it was towards me. Not sure what it stemmed from, but it was not fun. I think one of the memories of, her behavior towards me that really stays with me is her attempt to want to burn my mouth because she believed that I lied to her. And that just kind of carried on over the years. And I, ended up as a result of that leaving home, at a really young age and really looking for that escape factor, only to realize that what can you do at 13 on your own, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
That obviously drew me back home, but nothing truthfully changed. going back a little bit, when my father passed away, my mother left her previous relationship at that time. And then that landed me with tons of responsibility to care for my younger siblings, but it also only made her more abusive, and very codependent on me being that motherly figure to my siblings. And yeah, I spent a lot of time, running away and coming back because I think I wanted to be a child and I couldn't. I was sexually assaulted by her husband
It's okay, honey. It's all right.
when I was 15. And I think that's probably what kind of made me realize that I just didn't belong there. When I went to my mother, who I hoped would be there to protect me, and believe me and help me, I was actually received with physical abuse, verbal abuse, and I was thrown out of my home with nowhere to go. And at the time, I had already met my ex-husband. And after about a month of kind of bouncing from home to home with friends, his parents took me in, and I will forever be grateful for them. To me, they're parents. They're the parents that I never really had. I was welcomed into their home, and I was shown love and respect. And even till this day, I'm a daughter to them.
To them. That's beautiful. Yeah, because they're your family and
They
they
are.
love you as their daughter. And that's really a gift right there. It really is.
Yeah, I think I was forced to grow up at a really young age, and I never really knew how to be a child. Obviously, as a result of that, I, became a mom at a young age. I got married at a young age. And I think that when you're so young, you go through life and these experiences, and I think you just kind of push them down, and you are ashamed, you are scared to share how you feel or how these things are affecting you. And I think I did exactly that. I was so ashamed, and I felt really dirty, misunderstood, just really broken. And my ex-husband, to me, was that protector. He was the person who protected me and who kind of saved me at the time. Yet when I think about it today, I feel like I never truthfully shared how my childhood traumas made me feel with him, out of shame, or fear of being rejected. And, he was all I knew. He was all I knew for a very long time. And I thought, I have this beautiful, happy life. I have a daughter, I'm married and planning for the second child at a really young age. And then my world came crumbling down. My ex-husband cheated on me with someone that I thought was my friend, that I, went out of my way to help, because she was a young single mom. And for me at the time, even though I too was a young mom, I felt like at the end of the day, him and I had each other.
Right.
No matter what, we had each other's back. And, we had it great because we had each other. And in a blink of an eye, my whole world changed. I, was going through a separation. I felt betrayed. I felt like I was drowning. Here's this person that I looked for comfort in. This was the person that, when I was at my worst, he took me in and said, I'm here for you. I love you. I got you. And he was the last person I ever thought would stab me in the back that way and betray me. Yeah. And things just got really bad after that.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do. I never wanted to raise my children in a broken home. I wanted all the things that I didn't have from my parents. I wanted to make sure that they had them. And that was over at that point. I couldn't change it. I felt like a failure. I couldn't give that to them.
Right, right. And at that point, you just realize, what do I do now? I'm alone and I have 2 children, but you
are resilient.
Yeah, resilient.
And you're successful.
Right. But it's hard to get up every morning when you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that during that time and that transition of like, all of a sudden, you're sending your kids off every other weekend, and what do you do with that time when you're used to being a parent 24/7? That was really challenging. I started leaning on alcohol. I was drinking, and that was my way of coping because I just didn't really want to feel. And eventually it was, I get to go out and just do whatever I want with my time. And then I leaned on not just drinking, but partying. Never addressing my emotional state, never addressing how I was feeling about, the situation, because I feel like I've always been great at compressing those feelings, tucking them away and carrying on and having this like smile on your face, when in reality, I was dying inside and no one knew that. And perhaps because I felt like I didn't have anyone. I mean, I didn't have my parents, I didn't really, I wasn't close with my siblings. I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to. And so I dealt with the situation the best way that I could, which was, to keep it to myself.
Right.
And, well, that didn't work out so well because that only led me to poor decision making.
Right. And, sometimes, we feel that, who do we go to? Because we're sitting in a space of shame.
Yes.
And you work so hard to smile and put on that happy face and smile. Everything's great. But inside, you're just dying inside, but you can't let anyone know that. So, I understand that. I think a lot of women out there are going to understand that a lot.
Yeah, it's really hard. And then, you want to keep a straight face, you have your children. So it was just, a really challenging time. And not once did I feel like I did something wrong or like I had, anything that was negative to contribute to that marriage that caused the dissolution of that marriage. I always felt like it was his fault 100%. I ignored my childhood traumas because I felt like those are not relevant. They have nothing to do with it. That's in the past. And, I'm focused on my life today. And that was a huge mistake because it was my childhood traumas that contributed to my behavior during marriage, after marriage, how I, reacted to the pain and the heartbreak, they all stemmed from that. And, it's like you're human, right? And no one's guiding you, no one's telling you like, oh, you should do this. At the time, talking to a therapist was not a common thing. It's like, oh, if you're talking to a therapist, it's because you're crazy. And who wants to be seen as that, right? No one does. And so, I stayed quiet and, about how I felt for a very long time. And then I realized that not just was I being knocked down, in life as a child, but then, when my marriage dissolved and then being on a single person's income became such a challenge. Here I have 2 children that I have to feed and support and that rely on me 100%. Yes, I was fortunate that, their father provided child support, but that was it. There was no extras. And there was also no additional consideration, right? And so I had to figure out how I was going to go from making, pity hourly rate money to making enough to be able to support my children. And so financial struggles were always there. You have to remember that I grew up with a mom who would tell me not to go to school, that I needed to work hard. She would say, you don't need to go to school today. You're going to come to work with me. And who, constantly, promoted that I was ignorant or wasn't smart enough. And so you kind of grow up thinking that. And, then I'm here married, 2 kids, and I'm making minimum wage. And it's like, well, maybe there's some truth to that, because how am I supposed to support 2 lives on minimum wage, right? But I feel like a part of me always knew that I could do better, that I wanted better. And my kids are my rock. My kids are, I know every parent says this, but my kids are my world. They are my support system. They are my why. And I think we all have a why. They are my why. I live and breathe and do everything that I do for those children. And when when I'm having a meltdown, because I still have them, they're the ones that are there to pick up those pieces for me. And
they gave you your why.
They gave me my why.
And I love that. And, as a mother of 5, your heart beats for your children.
Absolutely.
And, you're going to do the very best, because you want them to look at you and go, that's my mom.
There were times when I couldn't buy groceries, and they never went without. One way or another, we figured it out. They've never once known that, there was a possibility we couldn't pay rent the next month. With all of those things happening and me not having anyone to talk to, it started to really affect me deeply. And I started to realize that I was lashing out and almost behaving like my mother at one point. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to take out my hurt, my frustration, my disappointment out in my kids. But I started to feel like I was at some point, and I knew something was not right. And I tried to be better, but it was very challenging. It was very challenging. In 2009, I lost my job and I became unemployed. And that's when financially things got really tough. I couldn't find a job. I always had the confidence of like, no matter what, I can always find a job. And I simply couldn't. Money was gone. There was nothing coming in. And I had, a moment where I was like, I felt humiliated. I had to walk into the county office and almost beg for them to help me with grocery money to feed my kids, because I had no more money and they denied me.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
They denied me and said I did not qualify. I remember at the time, I was still trying to make amends with my mother, which I had been doing for many, many years. And I remember, mentioning to her that I didn't have any money to feed my kids because I couldn't find a job. And she said to me that I was an idiot, that I was struggling because I allowed a woman into my life that just took my husband away from me. And then she chucked $100 at me and said, go buy groceries for your kids.
Wow, the support system that we think we're supposed to have, and it's not there at your lowest moment in time. And, Erica, there's a lot of women going to listen to this and they're going to say, I understand. I understand. And, there's nothing worse than going with your heart in your hands, like I need help. And the one person you're going to depend on, a parent, your mother, and then they treat you like that. Let's just add more fuel to the fire, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough, but it allows you to kind of see a person for who they are, and when I think about it today, I think to myself, why did you go to her to begin with, right? she's never been there, right? She has a record of never really being there. I'm the outcast, I'm the bad person. Why would I, in my right mind, think that in that moment it would be different, right? And although I've always had the support of my ex-in-laws, I was ashamed. I didn't want to go to them and say, I can't feed your grandchildren. I don't have a job, And I think it was pride. And it put me in a bad spot. And, although county services denied me, there was a couple positives out of that. And I remember it was Christmas Eve. I get a call. It's from a social worker. And she starts asking me questions. And she tells me, can you come into the office today before such time? And I said, sure. I went in there and she asked me more questions. And I thought to myself, I'm going to walk out of here empty-handed again. And, but what do I have to lose? She, bless her heart, I think of her actually every Christmas. She asked me for my landlord's contact information. She tried to change the topic and ask me about my kids, what their interests were. And she gave me an EBT card with grocery money, my rent for 2 months, and my utilities to be paid. And my kids never knew. They had no idea. And then, I met an orthodontist that hired me, and things started to shift a little bit after that. He, saw something in me, and although I wasn't working full time and still barely getting by, he gave me a job. That man has never steered me wrong, actually. I became, a full-time employee in less than a year. That job paid, for, my kids to be taken care of. You don't find people that are going to take a chance on you every day, and he did. And I'm so grateful for that. The idea for Chic Event Designs started to kind of brew at that time. And so I would pick up little side gigs, and that money went straight, for whatever the kids' activities were. But it wasn't something that I was doing all the time. Emotionally, though, during all of that time, I wasn't well. I never was well at all, actually. There was a lot of stuff going on, and my behavior when I didn't have my children reflected that 100%. When I had my kids, I was, 100% mom. They were my number one focus. But when they weren't with me and they were with dad, I made terrible and poor decisions, because I didn't know how else to cope with what I thought at the time was just the heartache from my divorce and the betrayal. Again, never wanting to connect the fact that I had all these childhood traumas, to what was happening, but that betrayal and divorce just added to all of those traumas, and it kept making the pain bigger and bigger. And as a result, I made poor decisions in dating. I settled for less than I deserved. I tolerated things I should have never tolerated, but it was better than being alone.
Being alone, yeah.
And so, sometimes when you're acting from such a broken down, place, you feel like some company is better than no company. I could tell you today that my mindset is completely different. And I think what did it was in 2014, I started to break down. My work was affected. My boss, would tell me what's going on with you. I was showing up to work late. There were times where, if it was a summer and my kids weren't with me, I would show up to work reeking of alcohol. Definitely not my proudest moment, but that's what I was doing, and I was letting things slip through the cracks, and I was, neglecting myself, although I thought I was doing life the way I should have been doing life. I remember having a migraine for almost 2 weeks, a very bad migraine. Nothing would make it better. I couldn't go to work, which, was not a great thing because financially, if I didn't go to work, I didn't get paid. I couldn't take care of my family, but I wouldn't leave my room. I was in bed. I was pale. I lost a ton of weight. I was having anxiety. I didn't know what that was at the time. And I was just in a really bad place. My kids started to notice. So it didn't matter that I worked so hard all those years to keep things from them, because here I am, like, I felt like I was washing away and they could see that. There was a night where I woke up because I thought I was having a heart attack, and I drove myself to the emergency room. I told the admitting personnel that I was having a heart attack, and I'm sure they thought I was going crazy because I was really young, and they admitted me. They didn't treat me any different, but they sedated me. Long story. I was sedated, and I was told that I was having a panic attack and not a heart attack. Go figure. And I was so emotional. I couldn't stop crying. I was crying uncontrollably. I didn't understand why I was crying, but I couldn't stop crying. And I remember falling asleep. I fell asleep and I woke up to a doctor asking me if I wanted to harm myself or my children. The answer was no. I didn't have those thoughts, but I felt very sad and disappointed. And I felt broken down, like I felt beaten to the floor and hopeless, I think, is really the word. And they introduced me to a therapist. And, my mindset was, I don't need to talk to you. You don't know anything about me. How can you possibly understand what I'm going through? You don't know me. And I refused. And she sat there. She didn't leave. She said, okay, we'll talk when you're ready. And in my mind, I thought, you're wasting your time, lady. I'm not talking to you. But I couldn't stop crying. So emotionally, I wasn't okay. And she was very patient. And, she said, I know I don't know you, but you're crying about something. Would you like to share why you're crying? And I just told her I was exhausted. And she said, why? Why are you tired? Why are you exhausted? And I told her that I was exhausted of always trying to do right and constantly being knocked down to the floor with every effort. And she said to me, okay, why else do you feel this way? And I thought, she's fishing. I answered your question. Leave me alone. But a part of me wanted to talk to her, actually. And she didn't make it feel like a therapy session. And next thing you know, we talked for over an hour. And, she said, please don't take offense to this, but I think that you're depressed. And I think that what you're experiencing is anxiety. And you don't have to deal with it completely on your own. There is medication that can help you so that you can feel better and you can continue to be the mom that you want to be. And after I processed that, I realized that I could either continue to feel the way that I felt and continue to allow my behavior, my choices to, affect my work, affect my relationship with my kids, my choices in life, or I could accept the help and take the medication because I couldn't function. I hadn't worked for 2 weeks. I couldn't get out of bed. So it was evident that I needed that help. And so I accepted.
We hope you enjoyed learning about Erica and you can stay connected. Here's how you can get in touch. with Erica Valdez. You can call 562-221-7800 or email info@cheekeventdesigns.com. info@CHICEVENTDESIGNS.com. To all the beautiful brides-to-be, Erica's gratitude offering is $500 off wedding planning. If you're also a woman entrepreneur to support our cause and would like to be considered on this podcast, please reach out to us. We would love to connect. We see you. We want to connect, empower, and inspire others. So please call or text or even fax 949-793-8781. Or our Instagram is Worthy Wellness Inc., like INC. Hope to hear from you, and thank you for listening.